When you have reptiles, you never know when an injury might happen. Your lizard might get scratched on its decor, you might have a snake that gets stuck in its fake tree and then you have to break it apart in order to get the snake out. Not that that's ever happened to me a bunch of times. But to help in these situations, it's very important to have a reptile first aid kit handy. So today we are going to show you how to make one. Obviously, if your reptile seriously injures itself, we recommend bringing it to a qualified reptile veterinarian. A reptile first aid kit is only going to help with minor injuries or minor health concerns, or to stabilize your reptile until you can get it to the vet. So today we are going to be essentially building a reptile first aid kit together, and I'm going to explain to you all of the essential items you need for one and why they're all so important. And for all of the products that we're going to recommend today, we'll have an affiliate link in the description below so you'll know right where to buy them. First and foremost, you'll need a nice container to hold everything. We like to use tackle boxes. They seem to work really well for the job, and we recommend picking one that has multiple compartments, a lot of compartments, so that you can better organize everything. And pick one that's a very bright color, because when you're trying to find this in the state of an emergency, you don't want it to blend in with the rest of your items in the closet or in your reptile room. You want it to stand out so it is easy to find. The first thing you'll want to add to your reptile first aid kit, and arguably the most important thing, is Betadine solution. This comes in handy in so many different instances or situations with reptiles. You can use this to flush out wounds or small scrapes just to clean them and sterilize them, or you can use Betadine and add it to water to create a nice cleansing bath for snakes. The next thing you'll want to add to your first aid kit is gauze. This is, I mean, you can probably guess what this is for. This is for soaking up fluids essentially, or cleaning wounds. You take Betadine, you pour it on the gauze, and then you use the gauze to clean the wound. Or better yet, you can make pre-Betadine soaked gauze squares. So for this, take a Ziploc bag, take Betadine, and just soak them. Add a lot of Betadine too, and these will just keep in the Ziploc bag, and they'll be there ready to use when you need them. Ta-da! Completely soaked. You don't want any of that white gauze visible. You want to soak these all the way through with Betadine. And now, say your snake gets a cut on itself, and by the way, all the animals we're going to use in today's video are adoptable through the Snake Discovery Adoption Island program. So this is a beautiful banana ball python that's for adoption. Anyway, say this banana ball has a cut right here. Obviously it doesn't, but we're going to pretend for the sake of the video that it does. Assuming it's a minor cut and not something major, you would take one of these pre-soaked squares and you would rub the cut down, and this is going to sanitize it and keep it nice and clean. And this is going to help promote healthy tissue growth for when it starts healing, when the cut starts healing, and it's going to cut down on bacterial growth and therefore prevent a bacterial infection from forming. If your snake or other reptile gets a pretty deep or a serious cut, then we would still recommend wiping it away to kind of sterilize the area with one of these gauze pads, but then obviously seek out a qualified veterinarian as soon as possible. Alright, so we kind of covered three things in one there. Just because they all related to one another, we have added to our first aid kit plain old gauze, Betadine, and Betadine soaked gauze pads. The next item we recommend adding to your reptile first aid kit is septic powder, otherwise known as Quick Stop. This is used in the grooming world to stop nails from bleeding, like if you accidentally hit the quick of a dog or a cat's nails. You can also use it though for the nails of lizards. If you have a lizard that rips off a nail, or you're trimming your bearded dragon's nail and you accidentally hit the quick or the blood flow and it starts bleeding, you basically just take a bit of this septic powder, you put it on your finger, and then you apply pressure against the nail, and that will stop it bleeding almost instantly. You can also use septic powder around the body of the reptile itself, but it does, from personal experience, sting quite a bit, so only use it if absolutely necessary. On nails though, it works like a dream and doesn't sting at all. Again, from personal experience. And septic powder is getting added to the first aid kit. The next item to add is polysorin. This really comes in handy, especially with minor cuts and wounds. This is an over-the-counter antibiotic ointment that prevents skin infections in small cuts and small scrapes. What you would do is clean the wound with gauze and Betadine as before to disinfect it, and then apply polysporin to help prevent an infection from occurring. To show you how to apply polysporin to a minor wound, we have Sora, who is a beautiful Texas rat snake in our adoption program, and she has a bit of a scrape on her nose. So we've just been taking some polysporin here. Basically, you just put a little bit on your finger, and then you lightly apply it to the affected area, just like so, and it'll stick right to the scales. Ta-da! Once a day with polysporin will clear a lot of minor scrapes up. Polysporin is going to get added right there. This one is for all of you turtle owners. If you have a turtle, skip the polysorin and instead use Aquaphor. Aquaphor treats minor skin irritations in turtles and it's waterproof. So it might not act as well to prevent infections as polysorin in my experience, but polysorin is just gonna wash off in the water, whereas Aquaphor does do a decent job and it's waterproof. So in the case of turtles, I recommend this ointment instead. We're gonna put this right next to the polysorin. All right, next in our first aid kit, we have silver sulfadiazine cream. This is a wonderful product. It does a great job at treating multiple ailments in reptiles. You can use silver to treat burns. You can use it to treat the beginning signs of tail rot. You can use it for other instances too. For today, we're gonna show you how to apply silver on this bearded dragon, who actually does have some tail rot. This is another animal in our adoption program, and this guy is actually due to be seen by a vet here pretty soon. We're gonna have the end of his tail amputated because this is all necrotic, pretty much falling off as it is because of the tail rot, but we figured we'd still show you how to apply silver. Applying silver is really easy. It looks like just a white paste. You just put a little bit on your finger and you wipe it on the affected area. Whether it's the burned belly of a snake or it's a lizard with a tail with suspected tail rot, sometimes in the early stages of tail rot, this can cure it, assuming you fix whatever the problem was that caused the tail rot in the first place. But most times you're usually just using silver to prevent the tail rot from getting worse until you can bring your lizard to the vet, which is what we're doing in this case. If you're using silver though, you do have to remember to apply it every day and wash off the previous day's silver before applying the new layer. And silver has been added to our first aid kit. The next item is pretty self-explanatory, vet wrap. This is what you're gonna use if you have a more serious injury on your reptile. Say your lizard cuts its leg and it's a pretty deep cut. You're gonna wanna sanitize it with betadine and then cover it with gauze and then take the vet wrap and wrap it around the gauze to hold it in place. And that will not only prevent a bit of bleeding, but it'll also prevent other contaminants from entering the wound until you can get your animal to the vet. Next up are Q-tips. And these, I mean, just come in handy. We don't use them for anything specifically. They just are really nice to have on hand in case you're trying to clean a wound or get something out. You never know. We also highly recommend these micro applicators. These are like just a smaller, more precise version of a Q-tip, and this will help you extract smaller particles or kind of clean out smaller areas as compared to normal sized Q-tips. So we recommend having both of these. So we're gonna put our Q-tips up here so that they're easy to access, as well as our micro applicators right on top. All right, everything we've added so far is what we would consider absolutely needed for your first aid kit, just to kind of cover your bases. And everything else is optional, but we still do recommend it because you never know what's gonna happen. First and foremost, we recommend the Zoomit Electrolyte Soak. This is great. We've been using this for a long time for dehydrated lizards and reptiles and other reptiles too that come into our rescue. Okay, so here is actually a store use one because we use it so much. We use this big one. I just couldn't fit this in the kit, so we're using a smaller one for the kit. But I wanted to be able to open this up to show you what it looks like. Basically, you just take these crystals and you add them to around 80 to 90 degree water, you know, bath water temperature for reptiles, and you let them dissolve by stirring them in, and then it's a great rehydrating soak for dehydrated reptiles. So our electrolyte soak, I don't think it's gonna fit anywhere but down there. Next is an eye wash, and this is also very important. I do recommend having this in your reptile first aid kit. In a clinic, in a veterinarian setting, you would use sterile water to flush out eyes on reptiles, but you need a prescription to acquire sterile water. So for the day-to-day reptile keeper, that's gonna be tough to get. So instead, we recommend Microcin AH, and this is safe for reptiles. It's just a basic eye flushing solution. You basically just open up the cap or the nozzle, and then you can spray it out directly onto the eye. Now this comes in handy if you have a lizard that gets substrate stuck in its eye, or if you're trying to flush out anything else really. And into the toolbox it goes. The next item for the first aid kit is not a leopard gecko, it's terramycin. This is an ophthalmic ointment, or an eye ointment, and this helps clean up eye infections. We are going to show you how to apply it to this leopard gecko here, although terramycin can be used for small mammals, birds, dogs, cats, and more. But this leopard gecko in particular came to us with a stuck eye cap. Basically, he had a plug covering his entire eye. Our vet was able to remove the eye cap using using the micro applicator, and then he was able to flush it out with the eye wash, and now it's our job to help keep the eye clean and lubricated using the ophthalmic ointment or terramycin. For this, you basically just put a small amount on your finger, and you want it to actually make contact with the eyeball itself, not just the eyelids. So you do have to angle your finger right to get it in between the eyelids, and then you wipe it in there. And that's it. Eye ointment is applied. We're going to put the terramycin, since it's a small bottle, I think we're going to put that right on top.
Does he want to go in there too?
Sure, you can. Oh no. He can also go inside the first aid kit. The next medication we recommend is really just applicable to snake owners, but you can have this problem with lizards too. We recommend having Preparation H in your first aid kit. This is what you use to treat prolapses in both snakes and lizards. Preparation H is just an ointment that you apply. I mean, this snake isn't prolapsed, but you can kind of see it's just a white paste. You apply this directly to the hemipene or the intestine that's everted out or prolapsed out, and this will help reduce some of the pain as well as reduce the swelling, which makes it easier to put back into the cloacal area. However, we don't recommend treating prolapses yourself if you're not trained to do so, so you can use preparation to help kind of start the process of the hemipene going back in, but definitely rush your animal to the vet so that an experienced individual can actually push that prolapse back in. If you have a reptile that has prolapsed multiple times, your veterinarian will probably have to add a stitch or two on either side of the cloaca to actually keep it in. So Preparation H is added. The last thing we recommend adding to a first aid kit is a business card for a couple of different veterinarian options in your area. Because I mean, vets are swamped. They have a ton of clients. It's tough to fit in new people, especially in an emergency. So have a couple options to call in case something comes up, and have them right on top of your first aid kit so they're easy to find. We actually moved our gauze pads down and our terramycin back so that these are still easy to access if you have to quick grab one, but also leaving the cards up top so those are easiest to find. In addition to having a couple of your trusted local vets, we recommend also adding a business card to an emergency vet, one that's open 24 hours a day. They may not have a reptile specialist on hand, but sometimes you just gotta take what you can get. And I mean, you might prefer to have your animal's normal vet take care of your animal, but in an emergency, sometimes you just need that 24-hour clinic to rush your animal to. So that's the one thing we're actually missing from this kit, is an emergency vet business card. But other than that, we have a completed first aid kit for reptiles. Now we have a completed first aid kit for reptiles. Now that we've gone through all the items that you add to a first aid kit, we realize that it's important to have a first aid kit or a box that has a lock feature. So we would really recommend this particular box actually, not just because it's a bright color and it's clear so you can see things on the inside, at least on top, but there is the option to put a lock on there, which is important if you have kids, because there are some medications in here that you probably don't want kiddos to have access to, like Preparation H or Betadine, which you can...
stains everything.
Yes, it does.
My finger is still stained from using it earlier, so.
And this kind of looks like tasty marshmallow paste, which it is not. So maybe do a box that has the lock feature. So that's everything we could think of that's necessary for a reptile first aid kit. If we missed anything, let us know in the comments below so that other people can see recommendations too. But all these items we use actually on a regular basis with the rescue that we run here at Snake Discovery, and these are the items that we use the most. There's other things we have, but these are definitely the things that really any reptile keeper should have on hand in case of an emergency. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, we'll have links to all of these products, including the box itself, in the description below, so you'll know right where to go to get all of these items, and I hope you all have fun building your own reptile first aid kits.
Which hopefully you'll never need.
Which hopefully you'll never need, that is true. But you will have it and you will be prepared if you need to. So thanks guys for watching. Thank you Patreon backers for funding everything in this so we can make this video today, and we'll see you next time.